September 1939, the German foe begins its ruthless march of conquest and sets the stage for World War II.
I am speaking to you from the cabinet room. This country is at war with Germany.
As the advancing Russian columns ride roughshod over what is left of Polish territory,
destruction from the sky hit far and wide. Devastation where devastation counted most.
Poland is arranged in Berlin and Moscow.
Russia wanted some of Finland to complete the Soviet domination of the Baltic Sea. He matched the Soviet army of 15 million against Finland's 30,000.
The German Navy puts to sea. Once again, Germany marched to aggression. But Norway decides to defend her freedom.
When the sun rose on that fateful day, the Nazis invaded the Netherlands.
It's 1940, and Hitler's legions have crushed Belgium and are about to head for the Maginot Line extension.
Slashed through Luxembourg, Belgium and Holland, 5 German armies fanned out across France.
Back from the hell that is Dunkirk, day and night the transports are steaming. The WWII is grateful too to its French comrade.
One of the greatest disasters in history seemed in the making.
Tens of thousands fleeing before the horror of the mad beast of Europe.
Within weeks, they cut the Allied forces to pieces. Organized resistance in France was no longer possible. Also characteristic were his terms for the armistice. It must be signed in the coach where Marshal Foch met the defeated Germans in the last war.
La dichiarazione di guerra è già stata consegnata agli...
We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields. We shall never surrender.
Italians push across the desert, invading Egypt, aiming at the Suez Canal.
Germany in Europe and Japan in Asia sign a pact against communism.
People look out across their harbors down the muzzles of Italian guns, calling upon them to surrender immediately or be massacred from the air.
The campaign began with attacks on Greece and Yugoslavia.
Poland, Norway, France, Greece, Yugoslavia, and now Russia. Smolensk, Kiev, Russia's historic western cities fell.
Death to the German invaders. On the Red Army swept through the country which for days and weeks had been under the invaders' yoke.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. A state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
This vast air assault had got well into its stride when Cologne was selected for further punishment.
Here the Japs received a mortal wound. Here our defenders were ready. The Battle of Midway became America's outstanding success.
The Japanese task force was routed. The United States lost 1 destroyer and the aircraft carrier Yorktown.
Stalingrad, a Soviet city and industrial center on the river Volga, was bombed heavily by the Luftwaffe during the Battle of Stalingrad.
Heavily protected convoys plowed through rough seas, bringing American reinforcements for the fighting Marines on Guadalcanal. Solomon Island invaders mown down when the U.S. Marines took the situation in hand.
Anglo-American success in North Africa had swiftly followed up British victory in Egypt. The Battle of Stalingrad ended in January 1943 with the cutting off and the liquidation of Hitler's Sixth Army.
The Nazis and fascists had their backs against a very insecure war.
And the destruction of Hitler's men and machines in the first few days of the big battle has been enormous.
The invasion of Sicily.
Nazi wounded are brought back from the front line in company with a number of German prisoners.
The invasion of Nazi Europe through Italy by the American Fifth Army.
General Eisenhower extended his operations to points along the western seaboard.
Across the English Channel to the Western Front. The practically unhampered flow along the sea lanes which lead to Normandy. Stalin's armies have sent Hitler's divisions reeling back in several places beyond the German invasion starting line of 3 years ago.
Paris brisé, Paris martyrisé, et Paris libéré.
Down on the ground, the enemy salient had been shrinking fast.
Task Force of B-29. Their shining bellies are filled with bombs for Tokyo. Dresden is a heap of ruins being smashed to atoms. This is how Russia battered open the door of Berlin.
Forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations.
Kamikaze, suicide fighter.
An American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima.
A second bomb was made ready.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
It is my earnest hope, and indeed the hope of all mankind, a better world shall emerge out of the blood and carnage of the past.